speaking of the USGA, obviously this week hot topic was the rollback stuff, the big statement that came out from the gentleman at Titleist. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is, I think, let me see, I think this is year 30 that I've been in golf. And this is probably year 25 that this discussion's been happening about golf balls and about rolling it back and about distance. You know, I was part of the question quite a few years ago where they asked manufacturers to make 15 yards and 25 yards shorter golf balls and to see what effect it would have or how it would work out. It can be done. To me, the distance issue is four factors in it. There's four big factors, and to me, they're all equal. So solving this problem by having the golf ball be rolled back is not the solution that I believe is the right solution to do. When you look back in the 1990s, 1995 is when Titleist Professional came out. That was a big change in spin rates of golf balls. So tour balata golf balls used to have about 4,000 RPMs of spin, and tour players would actually take drivers at 8, 9, 10 degrees, and they turn them down 6, 7, 8 degrees to try to control the spin. Since the golf balls had such high backspin, they couldn't hit the ball high. You'd have to hit it low to try to maximize distance. When we brought out Professional in 95 is when it came out. That 4,000 RPM spin went to 3,500. And then when Pro V1 came out, it brought it to 3,000. And then when some of the other golf balls got introduced, Pinnacles used to be 2,500 RPMs, Balata was 4,000, and now today the tour golf balls are all 2,500. So effectively what we've done is we've taken the spin rate of the tour balls and made them what the two-piece distance balls were back in the 90s, early 90s. So if a tour player would have ever played a Pinnacle, the distance problem would still be the same.
But could the balls go just as fast then as they could now? Like with that USGA test that we submit every year for that ball speed, is it the ball speed still the same?
Yeah, so the USGA has some criteria on distance, and one of it is velocity. The velocity max is 255 feet per second. That's been the max forever. So wound golf balls used to be, if you took wound thread, you took 1 inch of thread and you stretched it to about 10 inches, that's how much tension was put on the wound centers. So those wound golf balls would be made above the 255 feet per second. And then we put the balata covers on, which would take them just below it. So the speed of a tour balata golf ball and the speed of any of the golf balls made today still are at 255 feet per second. So a lot of people believe that the golf ball is faster, it's making it go further. It's not any faster, and it hasn't gotten any faster because it can't. That speed max on USGA is still 255. We can't change that. So the distance factors have nothing to do with the true ball speed. The ball speed itself, not how fast the players hit it, but true ball speed. In 1995 is when Professional came out, we started to lower spin, keeping the speed the same. And as that spin rate dropped, what the players started to do is your 7, 8, 9 degree drivers started to become 10, 11, 12 degree drivers. Low spin, high launch is long distance. Okay, so if the ball speed stays the same and you can take your spin rate down and your launch angle up, you're going to add significant yardage, probably 10 to 15 plus yards. So that was a big change. Also in the 90s, the head size of a driver went from 260 cc's from a volume side of the head to about 460, 430, 450, 460 cc's. So the driver heads got bigger, which created a trampoline effect. That trampoline effect creates faster ball speed. There's a limit that's been put on it now, so I think there's a COR limit of 820 or something that the USGA has on a little pendulum test for the head of a driver. But when the drivers got bigger, the sweet spots got bigger, the players started swinging faster and the clubs got longer. So a longer club, bigger sweet spot, changing the inertia on the club to make the spin rate lower, furthers distance. So now the driver is contributing to lower spin, higher launch, faster ball speed due to the club, longer distance. That's probably another 10 to 15 yards. The third factor are the players. You know, I read some report the other day that I don't even think they had fitness bands when I started in golf, and most of the guys finished and went right to the bar, you know, and it was time for the 19th hole to to talk about the round and have some drinks. These guys now go back to the range. They go to the fitness vans. They go to the gym 6 or 7 days a week. They're athletes. They're very good athletes, and they have flexibility. Watch the slow motion technology today, and their hips and their rotation of their body hurts, to watch. But they're that flexible and that good. That's generating ball speed. I'll give you an example. When I started in golf, the tour driver ball speed average, PGA Tour, was 160 miles an hour. Okay, that was the average for the tour players. So this golf ball that goes 255 feet per second to the USGA, the players could hit the ball using the equipment they had 160 miles an hour. Today, watch TV, they have the little TrackMan on the top. They hit 175, 180 miles an hour. So this is a ball that doesn't go any faster by design, but the player is able to hit it 20 miles an hour faster. If you add 1 mile an hour, you add about 2.5 yards of distance. So 20 yards is pushing another 40 or 50 yards by the player. And the scenario I use on that is you can't penalize the player. If you're able to do that, you're able to do that. Mark McGuire came into Fenway Park when I was growing up as a kid, and he could hit the ball over the left field wall, but because he was so strong, they didn't make him bat from the backstop. He still hit from home plate. But Ichiro could win the game with a single. So you could still be a winner in the game of baseball based on your size and strength. It should still be that way in golf. If you take the player being able to generate that speed with the technology that adds loft and lowers spin, this is why you've got these big distance differences today. Okay? And the fourth factor is the agronomy. Some of the golf balls in Hawaii and Phoenix are probably still rolling. It's ridiculous how far they go, 40, 50 yards of roll. When I worked at TaylorMade years ago, there used to be a tournament at La Costa, which is right in San Diego, which is right where I lived. And Ernie Els, Tiger, Phil Mickelson, they were the top players at that time. And I can remember doing a study for that tournament at La Costa, where I studied 5 of the top players in the world, 1 year and the second year. The second year it rained, and their driving difference between year 1 and year 2 was 26 yards. Okay? 26 yards. Why? Because the golf course was softer, because it rained. So this issue on tour is, and it is an issue. There's a distance problem. I totally agree with it. I don't agree with the solution being make the golf ball be 30 yards shorter. But there's an issue on tour that's 4 factors. I believe I read a report the other day that shows the fairway length going from almost 3/4 of an inch back in the 80s to the early 2000s. I think it was less than 1/4 of an inch, or around 1/4 of an inch. So that's the stimp meter of the greens in the 80s. So they're playing on firm fairways, tight fairways. The golf ball has a lot of roll, which is adding a lot of distance to these shots. And when you think about a golf course setup, the USGA gets to set the golf course up 1 time a year. That's the US Open. So they come in, they pick the course. They pick some courses that have length to them, but they set it up. They set the pins, they set the fairways, they set the rough, and they set it up where par wins. They make it incredibly tough. And we as consumers and fans of golf watch this US Open 1 time a year to say, oh my God, look at it. It's almost like watching failure. You got the best players in the world, can't make a par on a golf course. They're chipping out sideways, they're hitting out a rough. If you did that every week, they'd get hurt. Your forearms would hurt. You can't play in that kind of rough. But it does show that you can take a golf course and set it up to make it tough. My second example is Riviera last week. The 10th hole is a 308-yard par 4. Every player in the field can probably drive that hole. And on Saturday, they put the pin in the front, and it was 3.6, average, par 4. And on Sunday, they put it in the back, and it was 4.3, 4.4 average, almost a full shot harder on the same hole. Same players, different pin position. So you can, in the shortest hole you can have, these guys can all reach it. And I watched Tiger, and Tiger, he's out of the tournament, and he takes an iron and hits it off the tee to have a full wedge into the green to try to control it and play the hole the way it's set up. So if you have this golf course that you say, hey, I need to make this thing be 7,500 yards, we need to add 800 yards to our course, this is the only way we're solving the distance problem. I say, no, you don't. You can make it softer the week before the tournament, the week of the tournament, make the rough a little bit longer, make the fairways a little bit thicker or longer. Let them play the course, set the pins in places that make it a challenge for these guys. They're good. And then Monday, cut it and let us go play, because we don't have a distance problem. The guys I play with, they're talking about moving up a tee. Instead, they're not saying this course is too short. They're moving up a tee, so they don't see this distance issue. You know, the short golf courses can create low scores or high scores depending on how you set it up. And I think if you look at all four factors, you could even take a hole, and at 290 yards out in the fairway, you could put a bunker. You could put a trap, half of it. So if the long bombers want to take it and hit it down the right side, just with half the fairway width, go for it. If you miss, you're in the trap. You know, and if not, you play the hole the way it's set up. You don't have to do that on every hole, because sometimes people like to see birdies and like to see eagles. But here's what happens, in my opinion, if you roll the ball back. Take the ball and roll it back 30 yards, okay? I'm going to use Dustin Johnson. You can use Koepka, you can use Cameron Champ, whoever you want, the long hitters, right? They're 40 or 50 yards ahead of the short hitters today with the same ball, same driver. They're 40 or 50 yards ahead. So let's say we got this hole, and here's the short guy, and here's the long guy, and the hole's down here. And then I'm 40 yards ahead of you. You're hitting a 7 or 8 iron in, and you're hitting a sand wedge or a pitching wedge in. Your proximity to the hole is obviously going to be much closer when you're hitting a wedge than with an 8 iron. Mm-hmm. Now let's say we're going to push you back 30 yards. You're going to push him back 30 yards as well. So now you're hitting your 8 iron in, and this guy's hitting a 4 or 5 iron. What do you think is going to happen on tour?
Proximity is going to grow larger.
It's going to get bigger, and the long hitters are going to win more. You're going to take the shorter hitters out of the game. You're going to not let Ichiro play Fenway Park. And you're going to let Mark McGwire bat from the pitcher's mound. You know, you're creating another problem just for the tour that you're trying to solve with the ball. You could say, hey, let's make a driver. Make it back to the sides, make it shorter, make the COR be a lot slower, make the spin rate be higher on the driver, and the players could still use the same balls today. It could go 25 yards shorter, and then they can play the ball the rest of the hole that they're used to playing. But that doesn't do any good for the driver companies. If the golf ball gets pushed back and they bifurcate the rules and say, okay, there's a tour golf ball, this is what everybody's got to use, it doesn't do anything for the golf ball companies. It doesn't help golf. You know, we're trying to grow this game and make it work, and there's a lot of fans that love to see birdies. There's a lot of fans that love to see people drive the green. Make eagles on par 5s. Keep it fun. Go challenge it down a thing. Distance is a problem, but can it be solved? If there's 4 factors in there for me, start with the factor of give it a year of letting the PGA set the course up a little more challenging, a little softer, a little tighter fairways, a little longer rough, a little tight pin placements, and see if we can take these 20 underscores down to 12 or 13. Just see what happens. But if you take the ball and you make all the tour players change their golf ball to a ball that everybody's got the same ball, you're taking away the biggest part of the game. You're taking away what these guys do and how they make their living. You know, and then from a manufacturing point of view, you're taking away that from that company as well. You know, as money's involved in this, no question about it. And I'm not saying I'm supporting the manufacturing side to it. I'm saying I'm supporting the game of golf. And if you want to grow golf, if these tour players are playing a ball that's 25 yards shorter, you're not going to sell one of them to the public. The public's going to go buy something that's 25 yards longer that you can go sell that's not on tour. So there's no tour sponsorships. You take away a big part of the game that people feel good to play the ball that Tiger Woods is playing the ball. People go play the ball because Tiger plays it. You take that all out because nobody's going to do that. And what manufacturer would ever want to say, hey, I'll make the balls for the tour. Let me invest, tool them, make them, give them to them for free, and then not sell any. What does that do to the game? It doesn't do anything. It hurts the game. So, you know, it's been a discussion for me for probably 25 years in the business. The solution, to me, has been proven when I mentioned Acosta and in the U.S. Open setups. I think and Riviera, those little small examples of how a course can be set up to be challenging for these good players, these tough players, and then on Monday morning, put it back and let us come and play. and enjoy the game and help grow it with the support of the tour and with the support of the manufacturers and with the support of the consumers.